Streaming the live event. Yes, your event is starting. All right, so we'll see whether or not YouTube, we'll see if YouTube is going to pick up the stream. So I want to spend a minute and make sure that this is actually streaming. I changed some settings on Restream so that it's streaming to YouTube as an event. And I'm not sure if it dropped the old one or not. We'll see whether or not YouTube, well, let's make that see if YouTube quiet. Is going to pick up the stream. So I want to spend a minute and make sure that this is actually streaming. I changed some settings on Restream so that it. Okay, so I see YouTube, and so it worked. All right, so it looks like you can see me on YouTube and in Twitch. So we'll go ahead. So this is a unusual. An unusual case that I wanted to kind of do a special stream for. This is a data recovery, and I don't know whether or not we'll be able to recover the phone, but we're going to try. I've spent some time with this phone already, and it's really disturbing. So I wanted to kind of, take some time and share thoughts about it, and what it made me think of, and how you guys respond to this phone as well. So we do a lot of data recovery, and we get a lot of, really sad cases, a lot of, suicide phones, dead relative phones, so granddad passed away. These are the pictures. So we do see already quite a bit of phones that are full of memories from someone that's dead or is fighting a terrible disease or something like that. But this one really stood out to me, and that's why I wanted to do a special stream. It's because the presentation of the phone itself is really violent. So this is a phone that I can't share. I don't want to share too much particular identifying information, but this phone is from a straight up hate crime where this presentation of the phone is that it is filled with some person who's now dead, filled with blood from them, and that's what has killed this phone. So this is not water damage. This is severe human blood damage on this phone, and this person was killed, just straight up shot because of nothing other than his ethnic presentation. And that just really is so horrible. And when you see something like this, I mean, this happens all the time, and we kind of don't care. We don't really plug in, or we'll click through the news and we'll just, more bad news in the world. Go figure. But I want to take a minute to sort of reflect on what is it that you're doing in your life that contributes to this sort of cultural idea that we are losing as a world of people. We are losing tolerance for others just in general, and that's really sad, especially because it really seems like lately, in the last 25 years, that we had made great strides in tolerance. When I was in kindergarten, we were all taught to be very tolerant. And most of my peers were very diverse and growing up in rural Maryland, and we all got along, and we didn't really seem to have big divisions, racially or ethnic divisions. When I went to grad school, especially in grad school is a melting pot of all sorts of different people. And at YouTube, YouTube is a global community of folks that watch these streams from all over the world. And what I've learned by looking at so many phones here for data recovery, that when the phone is in a different language and I can't understand anything, I've learned time and time again that we are all so much the same. Each of these phones, everyone's phone, is far more similar than different. Everyone's phone has pictures of somebody's birthday, some amazing plate of food, sushi, that they got at a fancy restaurant. Everyone has a picture of a beach and some sort of vacation picture. Everyone has a screenshot of some funny meme. And it's universal. You can get a phone from anywhere in the world, and we see phones from all over the world, and you cannot tell these people from one another. We are all so much the same. And that it breaks my heart to think that we're teaching our children intolerance, and we're growing up in a society where there's so many more pressures as we live in this internet age that we didn't have to face as a species before. We're part of an experiment. Never before has information been so accessible. Never before have our brains been bombarded with so many choices and things to research and things to constantly think about. We've never before had so much anxiety. We've never before had so much difficulty with focus and concentration. We've never before lived without a deep connection to nature on a daily basis. This is an experiment, and we're kind of sucking at it. We're not doing well. So I want to share this phone with you guys, and I did put on the description on YouTube, at least. I don't think I did for Twitch, that because this phone has bothered me so much, the idea that in my country that someone was shot and killed because of the color of their skin, that is so wrong. And the idea of that family just kind of living with that is just such a insult. That's not the America that I know, and that's not the people that I know. And I know people that voted for one side or voted for the other side, but at their core, they're all reasonable thinking people that want the best for their children. And I want to show this family that to kind of have some hope that the America that I know is alive, and that this tragedy doesn't really represent our country, and kind of show them some love. So anybody that donates through the Streamlabs link, I'm going to send any donations to the family back with this phone. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. All right, let me see what's going on here with comments. All right, so I think this is working. How do you become a moderator? I don't know. Sometimes I will click. I've made like not very many people moderators, but I will make anybody that wants to moderate. That's not a jerk. Here we go. You're a moderator. Okay. Okay, so let's click back over here. Starting soon, Grandma's live. Hate crime, are you doing data recovery for the purpose of finding someone the A-OK gesture? What? Okay, let's see. Chat. Chat. This is a case for CSI. Haunted. Creepy. What? Nachos and burritos. Yeah, of course we're when we recover people's pictures, we absolutely look at their data, all of it, to make sure that we are getting what they need. Otherwise, we can't really charge them to recover their data. I think the outwardly destructive behavior is the human species adapting to the constant flooding of stimulus. I totally agree with that. The loss of individuality and a search for identity and relatively. I totally agree with that. I think that we really kind of have to think about what does it mean just the reality that we're an experimental generation. We've never, as a species, had to deal with this much information all the time. One of the things I think about sometimes, has this phone already been washed out? Yes, I did that yesterday, and it was, really horrifying. So I spent some time on it. Yesterday. One of the things that I think about with this sort of like information overload generation, or just kind of, like kids having these sensory disorders that we didn't used to have before. I can see that happening in my children, where it's like you're living in a world where you're kind of driving at night and it's raining and kids are screaming in the background and you're a little bit lost and the radio is blaring. That's our life now. It's just a constant bombardment of information. I think about what did it mean when my grandparents had to go buy a lawn chair for the deck. They would go down to the store, which would be a local store, and they would have to choose between the brown lawn chair and the green one, and that was it. Now, if you want to buy a lawn chair, the choice is just staggering, and you're just bombarded. You feel like you have to make the one good decision on which lawn chair is the best, and there's just so many choices. That's what we're living in. It's this information overload situation. And I think it does cause stress and anxiety and causes people to have more vices than, everybody always has a vice. And we're just becoming less tolerant. It's easy to kind of want to form little groups of, well, what keeps us the same and gives us sanity is hating those guys. Oh, can you believe those guys? Apple. Oh, God. Well, anybody that has to do with it, we hate so much. We hate all the time. It's just sad. All right. So Chris Long gave us $10. I hope that one day people will get over their personal beliefs and break it down to the bare minimum. We all want the same things in life. That is very true. That is very true. We're all more similar than different, and all of us are a mix of good and bad. Let's look at this phone. Okay, enough chatter. So I hope everybody has kind of had a chance to join the stream, and we'll go ahead and start with looking at this phone. So I'll show you what this looked like. I'm just kind of showing you, I guess I'll see if we can kind of look at this macroscopically maybe. So this is the screen of the phone. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. This is what it looks like on the back. And when I first saw that, I remember kind of joking about it, like, "Oh God, that phone looks like it's covered in blood." I didn't realize that this was actually covered in blood, and that really kind of puts, changes the picture. Let's look under the microscope so you can see just how severe this was. This is a person. This is someone who didn't come home, and that's just kind of on the screen itself. This is the housing. Someone who went to work and didn't come home. And this phone, I don't know if we'll be able to fix it or not, but we're gonna definitely try. All right, so let me catch you up with what I've already done. So when I first took the board out, it was horrifying. It was just caked in blood. So I had to give it a bath in the ultrasonic before being able to do anything. After that, I took off the shields, and the shields, I've never had shields that were just glued to the board. So the entire board itself was almost like as if it had been put in an ice cube tray and frozen. The dried, coagulated blood was like that all under and in the board itself. So I spent a long time just trying to clean this board to kind of get it to a point where I could look at it. After that, I went looking to see if I could find any shorts, and I'll show you we can look at its current state right now. All right, so it's cleaned up dramatically now, and now it looks like fairly standard kind of liquid damage. So we have some, just kind of standard liquid damage along connectors, which is typical. I've taken off some chips, and I'll explain the troubleshooting that I've already done as we kind of go through this board. Bottom half of the board is okay. Here's the other side. Bottom half of the board is fine for the most part. We can see some corrosion here on the NAND area caps. All right, let's scroll down here. Lynn Nash donated $10. Glad you are doing this, Jessa. Okay, clotting factors. Let's see. So from your background in science, how would a phone react different from other liquids? You mean to blood? I'm not really sure how I mean, blood is largely water, and then blood also has in it tiny little dissolved molecules, but that wouldn't really be different than Kool-Aid. And then blood is filled with cells. Most of them are red blood cells, and red blood cells are, little tiny discs that carry oxygen. That's all they are. There's a tiny fraction of other cells like white blood cells, and they come in a variety of different flavors. But there's also this stuff in there, fibrin, which is what causes blood to clot. And there's different proteins in a clotting cascade that will, chop each other up to end up making blood clot. And blood is also susceptible to oxidation. So you will, if you took a drop of blood and you just kind of let it sit out, it would thicken and create a really viscous stuff. So honestly, my impression right now is that dried blood, is a hell of a lot like underfill. It's almost like this entire phone was coated in underfill. All right, let's see. Whoa, reviewing MRIs. I don't know about that. What's wrong with your dad? Why do you need to review an MRI? I missed a piece. Do they have the passcode? They do. That was the first question before taking this repair. Before taking this repair, I said, do they have the passcode? And she did. Okay. Bygone errors, hateful attitudes were spread through direct contact with family and bent community leaders. Now hate groups don't have to rely on word of mouth and pamphlets. It's really true. How if you have to say something to someone's face, it's really different than firing off some, douchey internet comment. But those are mean. I had a moment I had a moment like a few days ago where there was just a slew of just mean comments, which normally it's like, whatever, who cares, douchebag. But for some reason that day I was probably just sad about something else, or, something hadn't worked out, or for whatever reason you're just down. And then you read just mean comments, and it is comments on the internet, are words that someone said. And you kind of probably wouldn't say the same thing to somebody if you were sitting next to them. All right, so let's not get too far behind here. All right, so then continuing up, this is the worst of the board here in this area. So you can see that power management chip is now gone, so is audio IC, and Mason and Cumulus likely have a lot of dried, clotted blood under them. So you can see here, there's see how it's still, stuck? I mean, look how hard this is. Stuck here. I mean, the whole board was like this. This is what I've been doing for a long time, is just cleaning this out. This board has been through the ultrasonic 3 times, and it's like underfill, honestly. It is thick and really hard. So there's flux sort of mixed in here. But this is really tough. Like, getting that audio IC off was really tough. It was like it was glued down. So was getting off the power management chip. All right, so let me Edgar donated $10 through Super Chat for this family. Thank you, Edgar. All right, let's talk about where we kind of found what problems we found. So it did not have a short on VCC main, so that was great. It also did not have a short at those NAND area power lines that are commonly shorted. So all of that was great. And then I looked to see if it had PMIC function. So I connected it to power to see what it would do, and it clearly had a short. And so then I hunted around with a multimeter to try to find the short in the least aggressive way possible. And what I found was a short on the 1v8 SD-RAM line. Now that's one of my least favorite shorts, because the 1v8 SD-RAM line goes mostly to the CPU. And so if the short is within the CPU, there's no path to data, because the CPU is unique to the phone. So if the CPU itself has been electrically damaged, then there's no path to data. So I was hoping that it wasn't the CPU. So let me show you what ZXW has to say about that line. And let me find it. This is iPhone 6. And I will drag you guys over here with me. And I'm gonna get rid of Pepe. That's totally not appropriate for this particular for this particular stream for sure, or ever, I would say. Okay, screen. All right, let's look at this 1v8 SD-RAM line. All right, so the cap that I use to kind of look at this is always this guy. All right, so this is PP1V8 SD-RAM. This line had a partial short. It should have about 2 kilo ohms to ground, and it only had 20 ohms to ground. So that was short, and this little cap was missing. This cap was severely damaged, so I kicked that off right away. And then other potential candidates for how we could have a 1v8 SD-RAM short was the backlight driver, which was damaged, so I took that off. I pulled this cap, and then when it was not short, I put him back. And I got to figure out how to see these. Doug Reno, Jess, I want to thank you for bringing us along on this journey. It's hard looking at this, but it's needed. It is hard looking at this. I totally agree. It was very difficult to, you know, especially when I first started. It was really, really hard. This is a test point, and then over here there is 1v8 SD-RAM that goes into this little chip, and I cleared that so that was not the cause of the short. Over here we have a little resistor. So the resistor himself cannot be the cause of a 1v8 short. And then on the other side of the board we have audio IC. So that's why I pulled audio IC. I checked both of these caps. They were not short, so I put them back. There is significant corrosion under here, but I just felt that was unlikely. I checked all of this stuff. I changed, I think I changed TriStar. Let's see. I think I put a new one on. Let's look. Whoops. Microscope. Yeah, so I changed TriStar, and then I removed Tigris. So Tigris is gone. So that's what I did to rule out those guys. And that's these guys down here. And that kind of left it with either the power management chip was the cause. See how the line originates here at the power management chip, and then it goes through this, it's part of a buck converter that ultimately leads to 1v8 being distributed into the CPU and the rest of the phone. But see how there's so many tiny little spots around the border of the CPU? It's a really common fault for the 1v8 SD-RAM short to be actually within the CPU or little balls on the edge of the CPU. And so that was what is really a drag. So before declaring, okay, it's in the CPU, I needed to rule out that it was within the PMIC. So the last thing that I did on this phone earlier today was to pull the PMIC. And when I did that, the PMIC was just a train wreck. It was absolutely horrible. So now I believe that short has been cleared. So let's check on that. So we'll go to our cap, the 1v8 SD-RAM canary cap, I guess. Let me grab my multimeter and get it fired up. All right, so we have 0.338 in diode mode. And that is a normal reading for that line. So without the power management chip on there, we have a normal SD-RAM line everywhere else. So we're going to leave the power management chip off for now. And see, I assume the goal here is data recovery, not overall repair. Yes, that's our general principle. All right, if PMIC is off, then fingers crossed it was the PMIC. So I believe it was the PMIC. So, all right, we are going to, oh, there was an active shooter situation today in Texas. Not sure what came of it. Is soaking in cool distilled water prior to ultrasonic better for blood removal, given how blood tends to become more difficult to remove once heated? This one was already really dried. I mean, this didn't happen today. This was a few weeks or maybe months old. So I don't know. I figured it would come off. Chris Long had a 1v8 SD RAM short yesterday on that cap next to the CPU, removed with my tweezers and iron, phone boots, but now loops if no pressure on CPU. Sounds good for data recovery then, if you can put pressure on the CPU. Yeah, I was hoping that's what this one was, because that cap was just gone. Family, yes, this is the victim's device. So this the guy's dead. So this is their hope to recover memories from his phone. Okay, so yeah, so Chris Long is talking about this cap here that's gone, and look at the ones next to it. So this one looked far worse than those two. So I was hoping that's what it was, but it wasn't. All right, so where are we going to go with this? Where are we going to go now? So because of the presentation of the audio IC and of the PMIC when I pulled it off, before I put the PMIC back on, I want to take off Mason and maybe also Cumulus, depending on what Mason looks like, because I don't want to put current through this phone if there's other non-underfilled chips like Cumulus and Mason that are needed for data that could, you know, kind of create a short that could bother something else and cause software corruptions. That's what I'm worried about. So let's go ahead and take off and see what it looks like under the Mason chip. So that's where we're gonna go with this. All right, so we're gonna take off Mason, and it's really hard to differentiate. This is all normal. This is the silicone water protection, but then in here, see how similar that is? This is dried blood right there. That's black dried blood now. I think I need to go get more. I've cleaned up my desk from this. It kind of felt like being a coroner a little bit. Just really awful. Okay, I think I do need to. I'm going to grab a paper towel so that I can wipe off this stuff without having to clean my whole desk again. Alrighty. Sean McNamara's, $10. Thanks for doing this. Best wishes to the family of the victim. Just what an awful loss of faith in humanity. That's what would be the most devastating thing, I think. That, you know, you kind of, most people have a general faith that people at heart are good. You know, that people, your neighbors and your friends, that they want the best for you, and people are good. I believe that. And, you know, when things like this happen, it's really going to shake that faith. And that's going to be really difficult to recover from. So I'm hoping we can kind of spread a little love. All right, so we'll put some flux on there. I also want to do this job first before going back to the power management chip so that the board is a little bit warmed up. Moving it around a little bit to just kind of warm up things. All right. So that looks bad. So I'm glad that we took that off. So let's clean up the board under there. And we'll kind of just leave that there. See how it is, the presentation is like, it's like underfill. I mean, this is different than really any standard corrosion. It's really a difficult material. All right, and I've never had this come up before. I've never had a phone. I mean, we've had lots of tragedies. We've had phones from, you know, a kid that commits suicide and set his house on fire, and that phone was filled with water damage and smoke, which was also a really sad one. But not blood. Never blood. All right. Did they catch the guy who did this? They did. They did. So that is, there is some justice in that. And it's hard to know, you know, like how much, no matter how mad you get, you know, it's really difficult to pull the trigger and just kill somebody. So, you know, I'm sure there's an element of mental disease that goes with that. And that's just sort of a, you know, kind of another lesson, you know, like what do we do about mental disease in our community? How do we get people help that they need before things like this happen? What is it about our culture that makes this okay? What makes someone give themselves permission to end someone else's life that they don't even know? So I'm just kind of making the balls squish down so that I can kind of clean this area out without knocking off pads. Without knocking off too many pads. It's really not the blood, it's the blood and what happened to the person. Let's say if someone cut their leg or something and lived and damaged the phone, I wouldn't be bothered by it. Yeah, it's true. All right. Unlike here in Canada, the American justice system actually puts people in jail for a while. Yes, I think the environment creates mental diseases. I think there's some truth to that. I think that there's this sort of overall theme of living as experimental guinea pigs for the first time ever in our evolutionary history, living in this environment of constant sensory overload, constant information overload, constant awareness of, you know, other people. It's really easy. It's a lot easier now than it ever has been to kind of have a feeling of, I don't have what other people have. Other people are doing better than me. All right. I'm just going to heat it a little bit so that I can get some of this out. This is what this phone has been like all day. Just a lot of difficult to remove damage. A lot of cleaning. Just this week we had someone sentenced to 8 years for drunk driving, and while doing so, killing 3 people. 8 years, for fuck's sake. Yeah, I don't know about that. You know, I don't know. It's this sort of like, what is it really? I think going to jail for 8 years is life-changing. And I almost think that 8 years is a really a good amount of time. 8 years. It's almost like you can't really hope to improve or have a positive outcome where someone is able to pay for a mistake and move on with their lives. I mean, if you don't have any kind of hope, then that's an awful thing. No matter what kind of crime you've committed, to take away hope, that's, then you might as well just kill that guy outright. All right, that's looking better in that area. All right, so let's kind of clean that up a little bit. It's really tragic what the Rochester area has seen the last as many years between drugs, hate crimes, and suicides. Yeah, I mean, I had that strange event happen on my own little tiny rural street in the woods a few weeks ago where some drug-addicted teen stole a car. Who does that out here? It's unheard of, and yet it's not. And then a week later, somebody's saying people broke into cars at the local Mendon Ponds Park, and it's just seems like you're hearing a lot more stories of desperation. It's a lot easier to get addicted to drugs and then turn from a person with hopes and dreams and a good outlook and lots of opportunity to someone that is stealing out of cars and ruining their life. It's really easy to do that now. Really easy. All right, Touch IC chip, yes. Here in the UK, jails are more like a luxury hotel. That is not cool. That is not cool. Jail should not be a luxury hotel. Guy Robert was here for the course from the Bahamas and was saying that in the Bahamas, the jail has a bucket, one bucket that you got to shit in, and you don't get your own bucket. So you got to not piss off the big beefy guy that's in charge of the bucket. All right, we got some gray pads in here. That needs more flux. Lots of flux. Just want to kind of make everybody a puffy pillow, including you, little guy. All right, so what do you guys think about Cumulus? Do you think we should take off Cumulus as well, given the presentation of Mason chip? Cumulus is this next door neighbor guy right here. All right, that seems to be good enough. Gloves, air filter. I had a lot of I had gloves and air filter going last night. I did do one kind of mean thing though when this phone first came in. I trolled Christine, who does intake a little bit. She brought it over here barehanded, and the screen was off, and I said, "Oh, is that the phone from the guy that had HIV?" And she freaked out. That was a little bit mean. But then once I looked at this phone, it just really turned sad. Okay. You'd think someone with a degree in biology would understand the dangers of breathing in lead. I'm not breathing in any lead. She shouldn't be leading by poor example here. You establish for me how anybody's breathing in any kind of lead. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, I think we should take off Who the F names these chips? That's the big question. I would really like for somebody to make friends with somebody on the inside and tell me, Cumulus, Mason, where does that come from? I don't know. I think we should take off Cumulus because of the presentation of all the other surrounding chips. All right, donate to the family via Super Chat. Yes, if you want a Super Chat or the Streamlabs link, then any donations on this stream are going to go with this phone back to the family regardless of the outcome, whether or not we can fix it or not. We want our community to let them know that we think this is not okay. All right, let's go ahead and take off the Cumulus chip while we're here. Greg thinks any chip without underfill is suspect. Yeah, I'm definitely going to change the ultrasonic water when we're done with this phone. That's why I wanted to I came back in tonight to try to get an answer one way or the other. Because we got to change the ultrasonic. We'll change the ultrasonic after this. It's brought up one of its cat buddies with it. Alright, this is what it looked like under the Cumulus chip. Not good. So back to cleaning. Paper towel. A little bit like dentistry. Jessa, have you ever done any work for law enforcement? That scrolled up. Would you if you haven't? We law enforcement, has a lot of specific requirements, but for the most part, there's no path to data on modern iPhones without the passcode. So it's we've talked with people before, and you can compel someone, you can subpoena a fingerprint from someone, but we haven't seen a ton of cases where someone would be able to get the passcode. If you disconnect the battery, even if you have the fingerprint sensor Touch ID enabled, you're still going to have to you'll have to have the passcode. So the device is going to require the passcode even if you've been using the fingerprint sensor if the battery is disconnected. So for the kind of work we do, the battery is always going to be disconnected because the phone's dead. And so you always need the passcode. So that kind of is, has made a lot of that stuff kind of a little bit out of reach. So what we primarily see is family-based data recovery. Every now and then it'll be business where they have a passcode in a dead device, but that's less common. All right, while we are here, let's not lose our little cap, since we know exactly where he is and we know where he goes. So let's try to keep him. All right, we can get rid of Cumulus. Well, this phone's starting to look pretty bare. So tiny, so tedious. It is funny how something like blood really is affecting. And yet if this was, somebody who had their wisdom teeth taken out and, or a gash in their leg, but for being an idiot, then it would be, no, who cares? All right, that's going to go more or less there. All right. Okay. Let's just go ahead and get rid of the Stockholm chip because we don't need it. And then we'll go on to rebuilding. Ultrasonic, the ultrasonic. That's pretty funny. Can a disease be transmitted by inhaling heated blood fumes? Can't think of any that would fall under that category. That doesn't mean that there's none. Certainly nothing common. I also can't think of any diseases that can survive living in dried blood for any length of time and still be active. All right, so there is Stockholm, and we'll just kind of clean that area up, but we don't need to put him back. What's going on here? We're trying to get data off of a phone that is literally covered in dried blood. To help a family get back some memories. And we'll see if we can do it. We've put out we've solved the biggest problem so far, but that doesn't mean that we're in the clear. So I don't know whether or not we'll be able to get a path to data or not on this one. All we care about here is just making sure that there's no corrosion that can make these guys touch each other and that the balls aren't touching each other. All right. Does anyone know how Apple is tightly knit? That's the second time I've seen that comment. I have no idea what you're talking about. Tightly knit? How Apple is tightly knit? What do you mean? What you talking about? All right, so let's start putting some chips back. All right, I'm okay with that cumulus, so we're going to start with him. And let's rebuild and see what we have. Let's rebuild, and then we'll cross our fingers. She'll have to bleach it. Self-clean function on the crest. That's ugly. Yep. If this was fresh, but this has to be well over a month old, whatever might have been in the blood has to be fairly dead by now. Yes. So there's no evidence that this guy he was a normal, healthy person. But that, nevertheless, if this was fresh blood, then you better bet I would have all the bloodborne pathogen shit out and be completely concerned. But it's not. So I am less concerned. All right, so let's get a cumulus on here. Bloodborne pathogens are no joke, but they don't really do well in dried blood. Man, these green tweezers are jacked. Blue tweezers are my faves. All right, let's see if we can get Cumulus to sit down. Lots of problems come with working for law enforcement. They usually have their own forensics, but if they do, there's very strict rules that make it hard. Yeah, I think all the sort of chain of command for evidence would be difficult. All right, let's get this on here. I want to nudge that guy while it's hot. All right, let's get Mason on next. Bleach might be a good idea. How can you get the passcode of the device? This is the wife has the passcode without needing to start up the iPhone. Is that Andy Cap? 910 clickbait title made me watch. Well, maybe it's a clickbait title, but it's totally fucking true. Just has a board with pads and a few resistors, and it's not a motherboard anymore. Yeah, it's a baby board. It's going to be a motherboard one day. It's going to grow up, and it's going to be a board again. It's going to work. Gotta have hope. We are not going to lose our hope. Yeah, it's true. It's funny, like looking at this board a few minutes ago, it had a little sparse. I think the word clickbait implies that you're being conned into clicking something that is not what you thought it was going to be. For example, Mama June, you'll never believe what she looks like now. Well, if Mama June looks pretty much the same as she did the last time you looked at Mama June, that's clickbait. But if you click that and Mama June looks way different than the last time you saw Mama June, then it's not clickbait. You got what was described. Okay, so let's see if we have a good Mason. I've had a run of bad Mason chips, which really stinks. First, the $400 order of Mason chips, the DHL guy delivered into my trash can. Thank you, DHL. Which I filed a dispute with AliExpress, and now I lost that dispute. And then I said, "What the heck? It says signed by no one. That means that the guy didn't deliver it." All right, so that Mason at least looks acceptable, which is good. So we'll get it turned around. And then the Masons that I had looked the last few from the different strip looked like they had been on the floor of Shenzhen somewhere and swept into a dustpan, and somebody picked them out and put them in a strip and sold them on AliExpress. That's what that looked like. All right, let's get Mason on there. Not clickbait, that's right. Title was on point, yeah. This phone belonged to a victim killed in a hate crime. Yes, it did. Lead needs much higher tempers to vaporize it. That's right. It's the flux that is dangerous as the heat breaks it down. Yeah, it is a good idea to use a fume extractor, which I turn on when I am here and not trying to talk on a video. But the noise is really distracting, especially because the one that I got has a squeak in the seal. So it is quite annoyingly noisy. But the danger is occupational asthma. Occupational asthma from just the irritants that would be in the fumes from the burn flux. All right, so there's our Mason chip is on. Okay, no false advertising, that's right. Heat destroys bacteria, virus, probably maybe in some freak accident where the temps are perfect. Prion-based diseases are the only ones I can think of that would have a good chance to go through blood being heated. Yes, if this guy happened to be unlucky enough to both be literally shot down in cold blood and have a prion disease, then I'm screwed. Dried spots of blood contaminated with Hep C can remain infectious for up to 6 weeks. Well, this is more than 6 weeks. You should make short videos like those just to see how they do. Not really sure. Top 5 reasons why Jessa hates Cumulus. Let's see. Where did I lost my spot? I lost my spot. I really. Jessa, are you not tired? Yeah, I'm always tired. David McLean donated $10. Wish I could do more. Thank you, David. Where is my spot? Jeez, I got behind. Oh, why are the Apple boards tightly knit like things are missed it? Sorry if I missed it, but did you say how the family found you for the data recovery? I would assume it would be they went to the local shop and the local shop referred to us. That would be the typical case, but I don't know. Yeah, it does look like it got under every chip. There was my spot. Looks like caps in that area need cleaning. The oxidized ones, yeah, they're not short, so I'm gonna leave those. Not sure if any cell can survive 30 plus kilohertz in an ultrasonic. Looks like it got under every chip. What are the chances the CPU will still be okay? I don't know. I'm extremely concerned because of this corrosion right here on these. I don't know if you can see that my cursor or not. I don't think you can. These guys, CPU caps. That looks bad, but they're not short, so we're okay. All right, how's everyone today? With the heat she's using, nothing could survive. I think that's true. If you cleared the biggest problem, then the second biggest is now the biggest. That's right, and we don't know what that is yet, so we'll find out. Here's what we teach our guys who do soldering. Use air filtering gloves or find another job. I've yet to catch a single one of the 25 not using either. That's great. That's fantastic. Ultrasonic is made to sanitize dental equipment, so it kills all cells and living stuff. Maybe? How is Apple so secretive? Apple is secretive because they have really, really strict NDA agreements, like really strict. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but there was a long time I kept it on the DL, but I think that time has gone by. But we got a call from Apple on the business phone that said, "Hey, this is Joe from Apple. Can I talk to Mark Schaefer?" No, but I didn't answer the phone because I would have said no. And instead, Sunday answered the phone and she said, "Sure, here's his cell phone number." So they called up Mark and said, "We want you to come work for us." And they wanted him to be the guy that lifts chips so they could run wires under things to test and work on Apple hardware development team, which was a pretty fun thing to pursue for a while. It didn't work out. But we thought that there was, that was a real strong possibility there for a while. I thought it was incredibly douchey to call me, "Hi, can we poach your employee?" No, so that happened. And during that time, we really looked into what would it mean? What would it mean for Mark to go work for Apple? Because I cannot imagine them actually going through with hiring him given his connection to the repair community. And ultimately they didn't, and I'm going to guess that was why. But what we learned was that you're not allowed to talk to the guy if your wife is on a different team, you can't discuss things. If you have social media or whatever, they're monitoring this stuff, any kind of mention of anything, even minor stuff, they are just so controlling, which is not surprising. They're controlling just in their stores and with everything else. But it's majorly, you will get fired if they even think that you are mentioning even the anything at all, even what flavors the coffee at work. They are completely tight-lipped about that stuff. Not so secret. We already know the iPhone 7S or 8 will have Touch ID on the back. Yeah, I mean, whoever smuggled these schematics got away with it, All right, let's see. Whatever the results of this fix are, this one goes into the right to repair bills. Pro arguments, Jessa. Very good. Let's see. Can you explain all the liquids you're using and the purpose? It's mostly flux, which flux is something that prevents oxidation and it helps solder to flow. Lead boils at 1,749 degrees Celsius. Its vapor point would be a little higher. I don't think anybody's got a workstation that can do that. I don't either. All right. Chain of custody. Yes, that's what that's called for law enforcement stuff. So before putting on Cumulus and starting rebuild, have you tested for shorts? No, because I tested for shorts before, yes, but I don't, Cumulus and Mason aren't going to cause any shorts. But I will test for shorts before putting on power management chip because that can cause shorts. Let's see. Do some research. She doesn't appreciate the please bro queries. That's right. I know it's not something to like as in a topic subject, but for the sake of Jessa and her time and effort in doing this, hit like, and donations are going to the family. Yes, they are. Yep, the only short I found was 1VA SD RAM line, which was under the PMIC. All right. I just want to kind of get caught up on this. Can't fidity. Mesmerizing. Yeah, I'm hearing Chris Long's voice in my head as I watched him slowly and painfully fixing his iPhone 6s backlight job. Which, by the way, Chris Long, what was it? Clickbait title suggestion. Louis Rossman eats a big, juicy 10-pound steak. That is clickbait. I love that. That sounds really fun. Louis Rossman eats a big, juicy 10-pound steak. That would be pretty funny. All right. All this clickbait stuff. All right. Let's just kind of scroll down. I don't think I can really catch up. All right, I'm just going to skip to the end. Otherwise, it'll just be me reading old comments for a long time. Okay, there we go. Obviously was poaching. Yeah, it was totally poaching. Let's look and see where we are now. All right, so we've got Mason and Cumulus on. And I'm going to come back here, and what I really care about are these guys. So I want to check to make sure that I don't have a short on these guys. And I'm going to check VCC main. And those are really the kind of before and afters I want to have here for power management chip. All right, not short on that line. This is low. I mean, it's always low. It's 0.026. I'd like it to be more like 0.07, but I'm gonna not worry about that. And then this finally, yay, is 0.324. That's good. All right, so there may be that the 1V8 SD RAM short. I feel like I've been here before and I've been trolled by it, where removing the PMIC somehow kind of is, creates a break and open in the circuit, and then when you put it back, the short comes back because it kind of goes through the PMIC to some degree. So maybe given that, I should check a few other spots to make sure that it is not short. All right, not short there. Where are my other spots? Somewhere audio IC, I think this guy. All right, not short. How about up here? Ooh, that guy needs to get back. Can't be like that, bro. Is it this guy? No, maybe it wasn't him. I don't remember. I don't work on that line a whole lot. All right, not short. Okay, so I'm going to say 1V8 SD RAM short is, as of right now, gone. I got to move back that guy. He is going to be important, and I don't want him to get forgotten. So corroded around here. So let's nudge back this little resistor. Then we're going to go for our PMIC, and then we're going to see what happens. And if it doesn't have a short, then I would come right back to this area, because all these little resistors don't look good, and they're all required, or some of them are required. All right, he's only been vegan for about 2 years, so I'm guessing he's had most delicious meat things considering he's in New York City. Yeah, but he doesn't really like them. All right, let's see. All right, so we're going to stick a quarter for a heatsink on the CPU itself, opposite of the power management chip. And hopefully I have a good PMIC. All right, that looks a little burned. I don't like how burned that spot is. All right, is everybody a puffy pillow and not too big? I'll put a little heat to just kind of get rid of that alcohol so that I don't have bubbling. All right. Now I'm going to hunt for a power management chip. All right, so Lenovo stuff. That is normal for a lot of companies. When I was on a mainframe design team, I could not talk features to anyone, not even the wife. I guess, I mean, I can understand that, something like details of the next iPhone. I can understand that. I'm not sure I can understand, that you can't talk about anything. Anything. All right, once again, I just want to make sure I'm grabbing the correct iPhone 6 power management chip. The last one I did had some problems. So 1251. And this time I will make sure to leave it on microscope camera while we do PMIC so you can see that, unlike last time where I clicked off and didn't realize it. All right, is this strip 1251? It is. All right, let's put our eyeballs on this one to make sure we don't get trolled by the floor of Shenzhen dustpans again. All right, that looks okay. All right, so he'll go on deck right there. So we are going to use some beautiful Chipquik 291, the good stuff. We're going to use the good stuff, not this piece of hair. That's not the good stuff. All right, we don't want too much flux to start with, or that can make the chip float. To the jerk that temporarily downvoted the video. Yeah, I get it. I think it's funny that, I don't know who it is that comes by to downvote every day. Like, that's kind of one of those things where if you want to downvote, why don't you just unsubscribe and never come here again? Like, why are you bothered so much by whatever I post that you wake up in the morning and set your alarm to go, I'm going to make some coffee, I'm going to go downvote Jess's last video, and then I'm going to go to work. Why? Why do you care? Why do you care so much? Want to know. All right, that looks okay. All right, let's try to get this thing on here. All right, did I miss something? I see, no. Are all quality products from AliExpress sellers? No. There's always some special person that feels special by disliking videos, I guess. All right. Now the edgelords are hitting that dislike. That hate fan. The downvote is probably Lewis. I know that the downvote, that at least there's usually like 3 downvotes on every video right off the bat. One of them is Lewis, which he told me once was not him, it was Sharky. But I know that it's definitely him. But I don't think that he does that anymore. That was like his old troll. He's grown into newer, more magnificent trolls. For example, even though he doesn't fix iPhones or really know very much about them, he has apparently, in addition to copying everything off of Jason's website, he informed me last night that he also ordered everything I'm selling on my website, on the supply store, and that he intends to undercut my prices and be a jerk. Because that's the way he is. I recommended strongly against that, mostly because I think that's going to be bad for his right-fighting everyman image, to be the friend who's kind of a jerk. But we'll see. He may change his mind and not go through with that. I need this to be a little bit closer to me for the angle. Alright, now we have to let it cool all the way down and see if we were able to place that without creating a short. Sometimes that can be difficult. So I'm going to get rid of my bottom heatsink, and we're going to let that really cool down because the resistance will change as the board is hot. It will have a lower resistance as that cools down. That'll go back up. Maybe Lewis just needs more non-judgmental love. I give Lewis plenty of non-judgmental love. I'm coming off a night shift as we speak, so my brain is slightly fried. Funny thing is, I've heard the downvotes don't really matter. It's about engagement. The more total votes you get. That is absolutely true, which is why it's even funnier. It's, you know, even funnier. I just randomly found this stream. Really? Wow. I guess the non-clickbaity title worked. Rossman needs a hug. At least that's how I view his insecurity. He gets lots of hugs. He's so funny. He will give you a hug and then he will throw you on the ground and stick his foot on the back of your neck. Programming for 2 days at 16 hours a piece a day. Yes. Hi from Finland. Ended up here from Rossman's page. But hey, I'm glad. Very interested to see more iPhone work. Yeah, there's a whole community. Welcome, Dick Trader. 2 clients having huge issues. Jessa, are you putting a heat sink on the CPU when replacing the PMU? Yes. Yeah, that was my quarter. Or is it not required? I believe it is required. I haven't touched a PMU yet for fear of popping solder balls under the CPUs. Yeah, you want to practice it. It's something that for a long time I thought was a really hard thing to do. Then the combination of I use the exact same temperature on the JBC every single time, which I have kind of worked out by trial and error. And I put the heatsink on the CPU, and now I consider it, no different than Mason or any other chip. So it's not a big deal. But I do think if you have a bad station that's really variable, then that's how you can get into trouble. I like what Larry said one time, which is 5 seconds too long and things go wrong. I think that's really true. Does Lewis still have Sharky? Yes, he does. I used a coin. Okay. Stuck around to watch. All right, great. So right now it's kind of boring. We're just going to chat while we have to wait for this board to cool. And then we're going to cross our fingers that we don't have any shorts that we caused, we want to check for shorts with a multimeter after PMIC replacement, because if it is poorly placed, which is entirely possible, then we don't want to put power through the board and send VCC main into the CPU, because that will kill the CPU. I need to find something to stick the coin to the CPU. Yes, Captain tape. All right. The title, you had me at data recovery. Friend of mine just asked why you couldn't remove the NAND and the trusted platform module equivalent and stick it in a different phone to recover data. Well, you can do that if you, it's not just the NAND though, it's the NAND. And unfortunately, the trusted platform element is one, the teeny tiny little EEPROM chip, that's not hard. But the other one is the big ass CPU. So here's what that would entail. You've got to peel up this chip, and it's a double layered chip. So it has solder balls separating the top SDRAM from the actual CPU underneath it. You'd have to harvest it, have to be intact, can't use too much heat, can't kill it. You have to reball it, and then you have to put it on a donor board. That is very, very challenging. And that's far more challenging, in my opinion, than kind of looking around, finding common faults, solving shorts, etc. Now, if the fault is that the CPU itself has been killed through having received the wrong voltage, which is a really common fault, then you can do all that work and still have a dead CPU. So you'd need to take the CPU, you'd need to take the NAND, you need to take this EEPROM chip that's peeking underneath that little corner bracket. And then if you wanted it to be a phone, the baseband CPU as well. All right. Do you still have Sharky? Yes. Why can't you stop this guy from trolling you? Which guy? All right. Better safe than sorry. If a simple quarter capped and taped to a chip saved from heat works, good. Yeah, it does. I'm unbannable. That's what I used to think. That's what I used to think. Downvotes. Lewis, how many mornings do you wake up? And let's see, what would Lewis do when he wakes up? Lewis is going to wake up. He's going to feed his cat. He's going to put on one of his 3 white Hanes t-shirts, tie his shoes, go to his computer, and how many times the next thing you do is go downvote Jess's videos? Because somebody habitually is a habitual. How many habitual downvoters do you have? Cheap hot air stations, they do keep the same heat constantly. I think you mean they don't. Let's see. All right, let's skip to the bottom again. Yeah, they don't keep temperature. Yeah, the cheap hot air stations are difficult because they will, like the heating element might heat up to what is the set temperature here today, and maybe tomorrow it's here, and maybe the next day it's here. And then once it gets up to that temperature, it's going to kind of oscillate around that temperature. And then maybe after a few minutes, it really just doesn't have the juice to get up to that temperature, so then it's just going to oscillate around here. And then maybe it recovers a little bit, and now it's going to oscillate up here. So if you were to graph the hot air actually hitting the board across time, it would kind of look like, that's really variable. That's really tough to work with. The more expensive hot air stations have more control. I mean, it makes sense. A lot more goes into them, including a $1,000 price difference. But those guys are going to make a very, very fast and then very even temperature no matter how long you use them. All right, should we go ahead and cross our fingers and find out if we caused any obvious shorts? So let's see. Number 1, do we have a VCC main short, which would be the most common short? All right, let's actually get a reading. And the reading is normal, 0.317. So we did not cause a VCC main short. And here's the reason why I say VCC main shorts are the most common shorts after a PMIC replacement. So if we click on VCC main, you can see that the job of the power management chip itself is really to take the VCC main, that's the aorta of the phone, the big artery that carries essentially the battery voltage. That's ground. Let's click over here. So here's VCC main. It's plugging in to the power management chip in all these different spots. So if you are nudged over, it's really easy to get a VCC main short. So a quick VCC main check tells you right away if your placement is off. Now here's what we really care about. Here's what we are trying to, the whole problem we're trying to solve is, did we grow back our short on the 1v8 SDRAM line through putting the PMIC back on? So let's check to find that. So our hope is that that short is gone. Let's find out if it is. Let's find out if we have improved from the original condition, which was 1v8 SDRAM short. All right, so let's see. What is that number? Tell me. 0.324. Yay! We do not have a short on 1v8 SDRAM, and we have a PMIC that is intact. While we're here, we'll go ahead and check these other CPU lines, because if these are short, then that can be really bad news. So this one's normal. And that one is still, it's a little low at 0.28. I'd like it to be more like 0.7, but we're gonna go with that. Okay, what should we do now? Should we test? Are we ready to test? Are we ready for our crushing disappointment? Let's test. Let's go ahead, let's do it. All right, so I'm gonna use the DC power supply so that I can kind of have eyes on what it is doing for power consumption. Does it have a normal sort of signature of power consumption? Does it have high like a short, or is it low like there's a data problem like the CPU is dead? So let's find out. And let's go big or go home and stick a screen on it just in case we actually get lucky here. And we're gonna see if we have another fire to put out, or if we fixed it, or if we have really no path to data. So let's see where this board takes us now. I'm going to add a dock so that I can prompt it to boot. And hopefully when I first plug in the DC power supply, it will say 0, which is normal. So here we go. We're going to plug in DC power. And plugged in, it says 0, so that's good. That means there's no leak on battery VCC or VCC main. We kind of already knew that since we measured it. Now I need to come up with a a good cable. All of my cables have walked away. There we go, there's one down there. And it's time for the moment of truth. Oh shit. We are going to see what happens. See if we have to go fight another fight, give up, or have success. All right, I'm gonna prompt it to boot and pull it out. I don't see it responding to that prompt to boot with the dock, so I'm gonna rule out bad dock. No response, like a 0 response, generally means something's not connected rather than really giving you information. Oh shit, there's no Tigris on this phone. That's another reason why you would have 0 response. All right, I forgot, we took off Tigris. Tigris is required for data. Hey, there you go, tech news. He remembers there's no Tigris on here. You're absolutely right, there's no Tigris on there. I forgot about Tigris. That was yesterday. Let's see. Yeah, my shirt, no rabbit holes, to remind me not to sit here until 6 o'clock in the morning trying to beat on this board. Tigris, complete and utter lack of Tigris is a great way to also have no response on DC power. Tigris is required for boot and is in the way of our path to data. So we gotta stick a Tigris on here real quick. Let's go back to the microscope so you can see the utter lack of Tigris that I completely forgot about. There's no Tigris. Feel pretty good about our power management chip placement though, so that's good. My next sort of area of concern would be like data line resistors, that a lot of them look like they could easily be bad. All right, good enough. Let's go ahead and grab a Tigris. Here, Tigris. Here we go. This is why it's incredibly painful to watch Chris Long lifting and reballing chips all the time, just adding variables. I think that when you're first learning board repair, using new chips and looking at them to make sure that they're not obviously scratched or uneven balls, that kind of thing, that's all you're looking for. Using new chips will help you eliminate the variable of you reballing a chip. It is really easy to get an oxidized gray pad just from lifting a chip off the board one time. And then it won't go back on. You'll have a variable and then you can't really interpret your results. I do want to know who watched Chris Long's stream tonight. I want somebody to tell me what was the ultimate solution on the 6S Plus no backlight. I had to go put kids to bed, so I didn't get to see the end of it. Tigris can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. I don't know why. I think it's because it's just got so many big lines. Ground, battery, and VCC main all go through with a whole bunch of pads. There you go, buddy. Great job sliding into place. We'll give him a little nudge. That little knock like that I do on chips helps me to sort of break up any kind of like a head on a pillow effect. Like if you had a solder ball and a pad and the solder was liquid and the pad was liquid, but they don't actually, become a joint, then that will give you problems. So that tiny little imperceptible nudge, will help you. All right, now we have to kind of let it cool for a second. Here comes Chris Long. Let's see. Chris has a PhD in ball management. 6S Plus backlight ended up being either the cap, the cap that I yelled at you about, that I told you to replace, or the backlight filters, or cathode filters. So I assume, did you follow my suggestion and just jump all the filters so that you ruled out variables? Did you get both lines working or just one and then make it go serve both? Thanks for giving me shit and the info. Repair family love. That's right. Helping Chris Long get out of his rabbit holes that he has no business repairing anyway by talking shit. That's how that worked, I guess. The lesson we learned today is underfill doesn't stop water nor blood. None of these chips that we pulled had underfill. Tigris didn't have underfill. All those chips in that area did not have underfill. CPU does have underfill. I already replaced Chestnut, by the way, when I was around here earlier. So, yeah, I mean, backlight driver had underfill, but it's impossible really for me to tell the difference between dried blood and underfill on that. Really, really indistinguishable. But it seemed like this phone was kind of sitting in a pool of blood that really collected around here. So the only chip left, these two guys we did not address, and that's because I'm not 100% sure if you can leave them off. They rarely have problems, so I don't really, I've never really tested whether or not I can leave those guys off. Oh, I think I replaced that guy. I did. So this guy's been replaced, this guy's been replaced, this guy's been replaced, that guy's been replaced. See up here with the underfill? Like this is underfill, that's not dried blood. Chestnut's been replaced. Backlight driver's gone. And then down here was always good. Over here, just to rule out that 1V8 stuff, I replaced TriStar and Tigris. Okay, let's go ahead, and now I still haven't mastered my gentle knock. Gotta master your gentle knock. Now let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we get any kind of response. All right, so we're gonna redo our test. We're gonna hook back up DC power supply. I really would like to get these cameras. I'd like to get off of Lewis's old camera and get my original camera working again, and then the new camera that I bought that I don't have the right cable for, to at least kind of rig something up so that at least you could see DC power supply. I would get a USB output DC power supply that you could put on the screen as an overlay, because that really is important. And you guys can't see that, so you have to take my word for it. Ready to go. Yeah, that was a giant troll for me to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna actually have to stick a new chip on. Okay, so I have it connected to DC power, 4 volts, and it's at 0, which is good, before prompt to boot. Now let's prompt to boot again. Prompt to boot, and I still see no response, which again kind of points back to a connection problem. So let's change out that dock, which doesn't really look like a great dock anyway. So if the thing cannot understand that I plugged in a USB to prompt it, then that would really kind of point to something between the dock connector. Oh, I think I replaced the dock connector for some reason. Yeah, it's not understanding me plugging in USB. But we'll come back to that. First, let's see what happens if I try to just prompt it to boot at the power button. So we'll look at the power button itself and see if it responds to just some tweezers in the power button. All right, it doesn't. So let's look back and see if I have a problem connecting my VCC main. Nope, that looks like it's okay. So that is a little bit odd. So let me look at my battery connector and we'll just kind of troubleshoot. We shouldn't, having 0 response at all is a connection kind of problem. That's a really unusual problem. It's going to mean something like this connector is not, you know, like it's not really getting the signal prompt to boot at all. It never just does absolutely nothing at all. All right, let's look. I think we might need to edit this dock. How's that dock doing? Yeah, that's got some cold joints. Let's go ahead and edit this dock. Did you check the gender of the VCC main chip? Are you sure you gave it a tigress and not a male tiger? Pretty sure. All right, tomorrow afternoon. I like it when everyone streams one after another. Fun shit. I don't know about tomorrow. Tomorrow might be the day for sleep. Lewis has been on 3 minutes and has more viewers than Jessa. Oh, of course he does. How many viewers do we have? We have like 200 viewers. That's pretty good. Lewis will have, did he go to work? He was at home, wasn't he? He will have 1,300 or so. Because he's Lewis Rossman. Everybody's hero. All right. Let's get this dock on here so that we can get an answer. I want to get an answer. So I think I saw a cold joint when I looked at this. I think that this dock just kind of nudged over from heat on the shield removal, and I think I just kind of nudged it back and thought, oh yeah, I'll come back and make sure it's good if I need to. I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to clear that 1v8 SD RAM short at all. Let's put a little pressure down there. Pressure. quiet in here, and I hear some kind of intermittent beeping from upstairs, which is the worst sound in the world. All right, that's a little bit better on that dock. Let's clean that up. I prefer Jess's stream since I actually learned something useful rather than listen to 4chan comments read out loud on Lewis's. Yeah, 4chan is ridiculous. I don't really get I don't understand why even, I mean, I know that Lewis like grew up with 4chan and I get that. It's sort of has a nostalgia thing going on for him. But man, that's like hanging out in the locker room of the middle school and just listening to what people talk about. I don't really see the draw. I like this stream. I learn more. Fantastic. iPad Rehab, you know your shit, and I like that. Got a sub. Excellent. Welcome to iPad Rehab YouTube channel. All right. It's good to hear opinions from both sides, though. Both sides of 4chan and 5chan? What you talking about? First time I get to see the live stream. So is that late? Normally I don't stream at 1:13 a.m. in the middle of the weekday, but today this phone really was. I want to get an answer. I put time into it yesterday, and then I just kind of want to wrap it up one way or another. Mostly because I have to do a lot of biohazard work to clean up after this thing. All right, so I put a new dock connector, and it still is not responding to my DC power at all, which makes me then maybe question my TriStar if I think that dock is good. But even if it doesn't respond to DC power, it should respond to my tweezers on the power button. Unless, oh, actually that's cold. Look at that. Let's disconnect that. So here's my power button. Look at that joint. Where'd you go? Right there. That is not a joint at all. Look at that. That would be a big reason why it's not responding. Oh, you can't see. Look, it is a totally cold joint right there. All right, so let's doctor that up. And see if we can get some kind of a response that will at least tell us what overall category we're in. This might be difficult because it's just so oxidized right there. We'll see. All right, let's do that other side. But that does not bode well for the overall 1v8 line. And all of those little 1v8 resistors. And the fact that we had a 1v8 SD RAM short earlier just means 1v8 got punched in the face pretty hard. Yeah, that one's really oxidized. Jessa, I believe, is located in New York. Yes, I'm located in upstate New York, near Rochester, New York, in a little town called Honey Eye Falls. And it really does have a waterfall. And that waterfall is raging because we've had nothing but rain. These are some oxidized pads. So for data recovery, we just want to get enough of a connection that we can get an answer here. All right, let's try to clean that up and see if that gets us some kind of a response. All right, he's discussing how BlackBerry's hard-earned money will be redistributed, leading to poverty. Yes, that's one of his main rants. There's just too much hate. I don't want to talk about hating the government. I don't want to talk about hating the way social systems that are set up just to, that maybe are poorly run or maybe are a bad idea. Just don't want to bitch about everything all the time. You ever feel like that, where you just don't want to constantly live in a state of mild anger and frustration? Just be happy. Just accept people. Nothing is perfect. The world is not perfect. Nothing is fair. That joint is still cold. All you can do is try to be the best version of yourself that you can be, and try to be compassionate. And I like the little part of that Fascinating Womanhood book where she said, she's talking about how women can stand to live with guys that are really kind of douchey, but you gotta suck it up, according to Helen. The part that I liked is saying, imagine your husband as having two halves, half good and half bad. Your job is to look at him in a way so that the bad half is turned away from you and you're looking at the good half. I kind of like that analogy. I think we're all like that. We all have good and bad, and your goal to have the best time while you're here is to just take anybody. Everybody's going to drive you crazy a little bit, and just turn the bad half away and look at the good half. And that sort of line of thinking is 100% in direct conflict with how Lewis thinks. He was telling me last night about how we need to judge more, we need to blame more. That's his opinion. He thinks that society is becoming too. I agree with the let's stop celebrating kindergarten graduations and stop patting ourselves on the back all the time. I agree with that, but I don't agree with the idea that we need to let people point fingers at people, judge them, and blame them all the time. He's a big fan of judgment and blame. All right, so I'm looking for anything else that... this just looks so corroded right there. All right, let's give it another try that we have got that connector on there. All right. Are we doing a roll call of where in the world everybody is? Let's see. Canada. Where is this? Does the power button connector really need to be connected when you prompt to boot via USB? No, but the USB prompt wasn't working, and I already did that port, so I just want to get one answer one way or the other. Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the iPhone 4 was the best durably designed iPhone out of the lot. I think you're right. It's a tough little bugger. Not seeing any solder. Is it just melting the existing stuff? Well, it's on the tips. I love your attitude and teaching method, Jessa, and you're nicer to look at than Lewis. All right, radio ditch. That's a fan. Would love to have a conversation about something positive and uplifting. Yeah, every now and then, let's just gets boring after a while to have the same old rants about, entitlement and welfare and blah, blah. It's just, I'm done with that. Let's see. It was probably the best ones. Everything today is bad news. Tired of it. Yeah, exactly. The good news isn't news. That's why. I totally agree with that as well. I was, talking about that the other day as well. Like, how did we get so divided politically? I'm going to try this again. I'm going to stick a screen on again. Should probably give up on the screen until we get it to actually consume power. But, you know, if nobody can succeed running a news organization that says things like, Jean Campany got a new dog and is looking forward to spending summer on the lake. She has finally gotten heat in the lake house, so it looks like it's going to be a good time for them this summer. You know, nobody cares. Nobody cares about the sort of general life and daily what you had for dinner that everybody's living. So the only thing that really stands out is dramatic posts and stories that exacerbate whatever, you know, like some shred of something like kind of weird. Like I could change that story about Jean and say, Jean's dog pissed on a customer. Oh my God, they're probably going to leave a bad review. True story, a little bit more interesting. But you gotta keep like jacking it up a notch, you know, like nobody's really going to even click to read about Jean's dog peeing on a customer unless I say, Jean's dog came to work and you won't believe what happened. And she peed on a customer's leg. You know, but it's like it has to be more and more and more dramatic and stand out from everything else. So it's like we're living our entire lives on Las Vegas Strip and everything is clamoring for our attention, our clicks, just like a bunch of screaming birds in a nest. All right, come on, give me some kind of flicker. No, you're not going to do it? You're not? All right, let's see if the battery voltage is making it to VCC main. So I'm going to go ahead and measure VCC main. This is still a bit of an odd finding. Maybe I should look back at the battery connector itself. Let's see, where's a good spot to measure VCC main. He's a little bit buried. Let's flip this over. All right, how about here? All right, so I've got VCC main here. Let's see what other kind of outputs I have. Nothing. Nothing, so it's not being told to turn on. Let's go on a hunt and look for some 1V8s, which is the sort of brainstem of the phone. So it's not making 1V8. And because of that, it doesn't have anything for the power button to actually short to ground to create that signal. All right, so PMIC looks like it's not making 1V8. Let's look up and see how does the PMIC make 1V8. Well, let's just kind of look at, let's like take power button and see where, follow that line back to the power management chip. Let's see. 10 things Jean's dog did that you won't believe. Yeah, like pissed on me, pissed on... Pretty much, that dog will piss whenever anyone like talks to it or looks at it or says anything. All right, so now we need to go on a hunt. Let's see, let's go over here. Let's go over here. All right. I don't know that I've ever followed this track very far. Let's go over here. All right, which one of you guys is the power button? You, button to the CPU, hold key, power button. All right, so you need to go, where's your destination? Let's move that over. Chemo, please. Let me click over here actually where I can see that chat. I don't think I can do that. Let's make sure that we have a nice little chat thing going on. Plot twist. It's the phone I punted live. All right, let's make sure we have some. Ah, now that clicked off. All right. How is it clickbait? Damn thing was killed by someone bleeding to death on it. Absolutely. Somebody said, I don't believe the customer. Well, it was in the news, so it's pretty well known. I can't tell you who it is, but it's something everybody's heard of. If we ever get it fixed, then we'll ask if we can reveal who this belongs to. But until then, we can't. Okay, so let's go to the ZXW and screen, and now let's start putting out the next problem. And for these, I think you have to, with lots of repairs like this, once you solve one problem and then you find that you have another entirely new problem, then you want to be sure to not get like fatigued so that you really are not able to fix it at all. All right, so here's a little filter that looks like it's on the opposite side of the power button, and it goes to a cap, and it looks like we've got the CPU that talks through that filter to the connector, most likely. Let's just check. But this guy's got to get 1V8. So we have to have that 1V8 present. So let's maybe get the schematic. Where is the schematic? Let's find it. iPhone 6. So the way these power buttons work is they have usually there's an always on voltage. So let's just search for that. Let's search for the word always. Always. All right, so here's one. PP1V8 always. So this guy, PP1V8 always. Here's R0314. 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 So the signal to turn it on comes from PP1V8 always, and that's a 1 when it's 1V8, and then when it's shorted to ground, it becomes a 0. Right, so that 1V8 always is generated by the power management chip. So if we have, on our power management chip, we don't have a short anywhere, but if we have just a poor connection there, then the VCC main, which is present, is not going to be able to generate that step down 1V8 line that is itself kind of the overall signal, hey, wake up. So we can, we want to test to see whether or not that signal is arriving over here. So let's see if we actually have 1V8 arriving at that spot. If we do, then we can figure out where the highway is broken. But I'm guessing that we don't, and it's probably because our PMIC is just not making good contact on that one ball, which is an interior ball surrounded by ground. So that center of the chip kind of takes a little bit more heat. I did kind of give it a nudge when I seated the chip, and I was pretty happy with it. So it could be either way. So let's just see. All right, so we can check from, let's look back and see exactly where we're looking. So we are going to care about this 1V8 always. All right, so it initiates here, and let's see, the easiest place to get it, I think, is just going to be up here. All right, so the outside of any of these guys. All right, so let's look at our board and find that spot. All right, we'll kick off this until we get some function. All right, so it's this guy, or here or here. So we need to have 1V8 present there. And since I didn't see 1V8 at these 1V8 caps, I'm going to guess that we probably don't have that. But let's find out. So we're going to go back onto DC power supply. Not with a 6 plus connector, we're not. So let's find the iPhone 6. All right, so just connecting that power should send our battery VCC. It should go up into this little Q1403 chip, which is going to marry it together to VCC main, and it should appear right here. So let's see if it's there, and it will be because we already looked for VCC main. And it's not really a linear thing, it's kind of more of a tree. So let's see, yep, so there's our battery voltage there. And that means it has filled up the heart with blood. So there's the heart, the power management chip. So we can see with a multimeter when I measure for the presence of the VCC main battery voltage, it is there. And it is, 4 volts, which is what the USB or the DC power supply is set at. So that means it should be producing all of the other voltages that come out of it. So right now, at before prompt to boot, it should be generating 1V8, 1.8 volts. It should be generating that, and they should be, I forget which side, I think the outside. It should be here. And what we have is 0.64, which is very odd, honestly. 0.64. 0.64. And let's check the other side. And then on the other side of this one, so this little resistor here is going to be separating that 1V8 always from the line, from the side that goes to the power button up there. And it's 0.08. And let's just see what happens if we ground that. To actually 0, then really nothing. All right, so that's our problem then. We have, we do not have 1.8 volts being produced. But we do have a weird number. So what's the explanation? We're supposed to have 1.8 volts there, and who's supposed to make it? The power management chip. That's his job. And how does the power management chip make it? Well, he gets plugged into VCC main, and then inside the chip is going to be a series of transistors and diodes in the silicon of the chip. And then there's going to be, coils outside that are various buck converters for various lines that it's supposed to chop up that VCC main voltage and send out the 3 volts, the 1.2, the 0.95, the 1.8, all of the little voltages that various subsystems of the phone need. And this one is not doing that. It's not doing that for that 1.8. So why is it? And then it's not a 0. It's not doing it down to 0. So what are the possibilities here? One is the PMIC is not well connected. So that's one possibility, that it's not well connected. But because it's not 0, that likelihood actually kind of goes down a little bit. Number 2 is that there's a partial short to ground. So it is making the 1.8 out of the PMIC, but there's a hole. There's a hole in the artery, and so we have a leak. So there's like a our blood pressure, we can't maintain our blood pressure because we have a leak to ground. So somewhere in that line, we could have a short to ground. So that's a possibility. And then the third possibility is that this particular PMIC chip itself, the internal workings of it just are not working. Bad chip. So it's getting the 3.8, it is sitting on the ball maybe, but it's not able to actually switch and chop up that battery voltage 4 and put out 1.8. So those are our three possibilities. Of those, and this is where, you know, I think this repair starts to become a little bit fatiguing, because I think we started at pretty close to 11:30, so 12:30, 1:30. This is about where I kind of, you know, put things aside so that it's always a fresh problem. I don't really want to start a second problem. But I think the low-hanging fruit on that one would be to reflow the power management chip that's on there now and see if we could clear up some kind of a connection problem. I actually think that's the least likely of our possibilities. Next, after doing that, I would put this board, it's just got a lot of flux on it from all this work. I'd put it back in the ultrasonic to kind of give it a fresh slate so then we could kind of observe. Then I would just first, for any sort of problem, you're going to look at two things. One is short to ground, and the other is, do I have a highway? So I would look around for anything that is on that line that is missing or broken or knocked off the board, and then I would measure for a short to ground. Now, a short to ground is a full, like, whole zero. A short to ground where you have zero resistance to ground would be really obvious. You could detect that with a multimeter in continuity mode, for example. But that's not the case here, because we can maintain a voltage. We can maintain 0.6 instead of 1.8. So that means that there's could be a partial short to ground where something's just leaky. Something is a little leaky and it's letting some of that voltage go to ground inappropriately. So in that case, how do we detect a short to ground? So in that case, we would have to compare this board on that line to a known good board. So we would have to take diode mode readings and do lots of comparison. So all of that is sort of like chapter 2 kind of material, where we would have to go, you know, kind of, it would be a fresh problem, which would be a fun problem. It's just another one, but I don't think that we want to really go, you know, go until 6 o'clock in the morning on this board right now. At least I don't think. So I think I will reflow the power management chip, and that's where I will draw a line between chapter 1 and chapter 2. But let's see what you guys think before we do that. Let's see. I'm refusing to switch to Lewis's stream until you're done. He should have waited, seeing how you're being so worthy and stuff. Oh, he's not going to do that. He's drunk and ranting about spurious correlations. Not very interesting. Yes. May I ask Jessa what software it is that lets you pull the board up to help check the list, help with the checklist for the problems of the device? There's two pieces of software that I'm using. One is the XW and the other is the schematic. I think, let's see. What's HV diode, Amy? I don't know that. It should be on the resistor. Isn't that what I looked at? Is that behind? I do like the rants, but I'm still staying. All right, look at you guys. Gallstone, what? Let's see. Pull up is so when the button is pressed, the line goes low. Yes. PP1V8, is it a secondary line in the phone? No, it's the brainstem line. It's the number one line. It's like the spinal cord of the phone, I think. All right. A whole bunch of English. Short somewhere. VCC main is good. Yay. Meter out the traces. What traces? I see some cap in one side is black. That, well, anything that looked black, I already looked to see whether there was a short on that line. And I didn't find any. Let's see. So it's 1/3 of what it should be. Yes, it's 1/3 of what it should be. Cap and resistor may be shot. Maybe. I'll have to watch the rest tomorrow. Yeah, me too. Me too. This is a good repair, though. I like it. Definitely starting to rabbit hole. Yes, I did have to wear I wore my no rabbit hole shirt to make sure that I didn't start working on this until 6 o'clock in the morning. That is my goal. Let's see. I'm good friends with the Apple Store across the road. All right. You interested in me subbing. Excellent. All right. Okay, so let's just go ahead and we're gonna do our last thing is going to be to high voltage diode. What high voltage diode? What are you talking about? Let's go ahead and we'll gently reflow our PMIC. So we're going to get back our quarter. Just in case there is something that just didn't quite make a good connection when we placed it. It would be kind of fun. I mean, I think once, if we reflowed the PMIC so that we were like extra double sure that it was, didn't have any kind of head-on pillow that we talked about, we could, at least in theory, inject the 1.8 volts and then make it go to 0 by grounding it, and that would sort of serve as a prompt to boot, which would then wake up the power management chip and tell it to start making all of its other voltages, at least in theory. So we may not have to spend a super long time caring about this one line if this line is kind of the only problem. All right, so our ball that we're worried about is right around here. I really felt like this was a good placement, though. This side would be the only one I'm concerned about. I know I saw a nudge over here, so I don't think that is going to be the deal. I do think that since I worked on this board yesterday, that I need to maybe go back through and see, you know, like I see I'm missing a resistor there, and I assume it was one of the 1V8 SD RAM ones. But I need to kind of review what is maybe missing off of here. So it needs kind of a bath. Now I think we've really gotten rid of all of the serious blood on this board, and it's even starting to feel more like a normal problem and not one that just is so emotional. It just is difficult to work on like it was initially. All right, so I'm working on I want to be able to give it the gentle nudge. So I got to have him floating in order to be able to do that. And I want to watch out for my heat on the CPU. 5 seconds too long, things go wrong. So I can't nudge him yet. And I need flux to be present in order to float everything. I bring it closer to me to get a little bit more of an angle. There we go. See that nudge? Nudge. All right, that was definitely a lot of nudging. Hopefully we didn't heat up CPU too much, because that was a little bit more heat than I would typically put, but we'll see. All right. Rehot PMIC, bro. Rehot PMIC. Rehot. Yep, it's 1:45 a.m. right here. Interesting, in the current light, Lewis looks Indian, like an Italian Indian. Rehot in progress. I'm tired. Me too. It shunts the rail to ground, so maybe it's messed up. Which one? The diode on the AP hold power button? I've never seen that. I've thought about that a lot, especially with the air charging issues. I've never seen them fail. Talking about a repair Chris was working on earlier. Jessa, if you inject 1v8, what happens? Well, that's my next plan is first rule out, did PMIC really sit? So I wanted to see a good nudge all the way across the board. When I originally placed it, I nudged one side and I saw a nudge and I felt that was good. And the fact that that was actually where the ball in question is, the 1v8 always line coming out, was where I nudged it. So I don't think I'm going to see a change from having done this, but I feel like ruling this out, good placement was important. Even though it's a risk because you have to put more heat on the board and it's, you're risking your CPU balls when you do that. But I think that was what we had to do. So if that does not bring back 1v8 always, then it's going to be a line problem. So then we can either decide, all right, is there a short to ground, which would mean comparing it in diode mode to a different board and seeing if it's the same or not, or is there some sort of a continuity problem, which is less likely. And then rather than try to hunt down a cause of the problem, the next idea might be, is there a workaround? Can we not have to solve this problem? And I think the answer to that might be yes. If we said, fine, the power management chip didn't make 1.8 volts, so screw him. We'll just give it 1.8 volts. All this line is supposed to do is take 1.8 volts and have it be present 1.8 and then gone. So if we just solder a wire to the 1v8 where it's supposed to be and make it be 1v8 and then take it away, then that's going to tell the CPU, hey, somebody press the power button. And then the CPU would then say, hey, PMIC, you need to be making all of your voltages to wake everybody up. And it would start sending out data lines, signals to wake everybody else up. And then we could at least see what the overall problem, or if maybe there's no problem, we don't know. So that would be kind of fun. So that would be kind of what my thoughts would be on it next. I don't know. All right, let's see. Make it great again. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? Know what I mean? PMIC needs a bit of a nudge to right placement. Yeah, that's the thing. What is its bedtime? Yeah, that's the other thing I say about these kind of rabbit hole boards, or that become pets. This one's not quite at pet status, but when you do have a pet board that you've worked on for 3 sessions, which apparently is about 2 hours. We like to think that, it's 20 or 30 minutes. No, it's not. It's 2 hours. Come on. After you do that 3 times, then it's your pet, where you're invested. It is crossed over from being something that you're no longer motivated to work on it because you intend to collect an invoice at the end. You have moved into hobbyist. So that's fine, but you have to be aware of that. So if you're choosing to kind of work on these hobby boards, then they're your pets, and pets have to, you have to work on them. So you're kind of feeding them, you're playing with them, you're hanging out with your pet, but then your pet has to take a nap. So at this point, we would put our pet away, and then we would have to come back to it. All right, let's see. Where the heck did Rehot come from? Rehot has been around for a long time on the GSM forums. Rehot this, bro. And that's, I don't know why recently it has become such a thing. Let's see. It's a legit solution on some outdated Nokia phones. Came from a repair forum somewhere. Yeah, GSM forum. Please bro solutions. Please bro solutions is really a term that that I've popularized. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that comes from me. So the please bro is the cultural response that people use when asking for a canned, no thinking required, one size fits all solution to complex problems. So it would be like, I've got an iPhone 6 filled with blood, won't turn on. Please, bro, what's the solution? The solution is learn how to do board repair. The solution is learn how to think. All right, Jessa, you deal with gentle nudges. Sometimes I have to use a 20-pound sledge at work to make stuff. Some off cars and trucks. That's a bit more than a nudge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, GSM Forum started it, exactly. I cannot watch Lewis's drunk rants. It's just always the same. You're either missing Lewis's highest point or lowest point in his YouTube history. Completely uninterested. I hear this every day. 2 hours working on a GPS device. Turned out the port was reversed. Ouch. All right. Yeah, the last time he did this, it actually worked out for him really well, so have at it. Do you have any interest in circuit design? Sure, but I would be a noob. I think it would be fun, like, as my kids get older. I have a 12-year-old, so he's really kind of just at that age where things like, hey, let's go to, the summer camp where you learn how to mod Minecraft and stuff like that. They're kind of, I expect that they would be into that and that I would follow along as they learn that stuff. So that's sort of my plan with that. But yeah, I'd love to learn circuit design. Let's check to see, have we now created a VCC main short, which has a really good likelihood since we saw a lot of movement on that chip. And it's really easy to nudge two balls together. And if we did, then we'll stop there and it'll have to get a new PMIC later. All right, how are we doing over here? All right, give me a reading. I didn't get a reading. VCC main is not short. Hooray! All right, let's go back and look at our... I do not see signs of heat around here, which is good. I don't see little blubs and bubbles of too much heat. How's this doing? That is normal. That is, hey, we got it up to 0.03. That's good. All right, all of those are correct. No shorts. No way you're old enough to have a 12-year-old. Yep, I've got a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and 2 6-year-olds. That's a lot of year-old kids. Okay. Let's see if we plug in back to DC power supply, and we're getting really close to what I would call this guy needs to my pet needs to be fed and put away. But let's just see where we are now. So we did sort of step 1 of chapter 2, which would be, where the hell is 1V8 always on this board? All right, so I have connected my DC power. And as sort of a starter, I'll go down and touch the power button and see if I get any movement, which I don't. I don't see any flicker on DC power. I'm going to flip it over, and now let's see. Lay down. All right, let's see if we can get, there's so much flex there, it'll be hard to get a reading at all. Let's see what kind of volts we get on these guys. My sister got her PhD at 25. She's old enough to have a PhD. Yeah, I had a PhD in 2001. That was a long time ago. Yeah, 2001, however old I was then. 26 or 27, something like that. All right, let's go to our spot and see what kind of voltage are we getting. So let's make sure that we've still got our VCC main, which we should. Yep, we do. And let's check our output. I don't remember which side of this resistor was the important one. So we'll try to, hey, 1.8. Look at that. All right, let's look back at that. 1.8. What's our NAND? I wondered if that was always there. Yep, 0. All right, so there's 1.8 there. That's good. That means the PMIC is doing its job. Progress. All right, let's look back at that. So let's take you guys over here. Screen, And now we had 1.8 right there. So 1.8 right there. Let's look at R0314. Let's look at that on the schematic. No, not you. You're not the schematic. Here's R0314. Let's move this. So this is the power management chip that we just replaced. And we are getting our 1.8 volts here. So that's good. Let's follow this around a little bit and see where does he go. Wait, U201, that's the CPU. So we've got our 1.8 here on that side. All right, so this is 1V8 always C0520 at the CPU. And then here it is at the power management chip. So this is going to be our PMIC that we just replaced. PMU, power management unit, U1202. So this is kind of the beginning of that line. So it makes 1V8 always. And it does that as sort of our brainstem spinal cord activity. And from there, it goes to here, U1401. Anybody want to take a guess who this is? It's our buddy Tigris. All right, so it goes in here to Tigris, which is part of why the charging, plugging in the charger can turn the device on. And let's see. And then we're back here at the CPU. So Fiji is the CPU. All right, so then it goes in here and it tells the CPU, hey, bro, wake up. All right, so does that make sense? I think that is it. All right, so let's just click back on that. All right, so here's the deal. The power management chip is now making the 1.8 volts that it should. So it's generating that signal that, at least in theory, if that signal then has all of its highway intact, which it may not, because it's got resistors that we said lots of these resistors look really hanging on by a thread. So if a resistor from water or blood damage is just lifted, so it's not making connection, then that's like washing a drawbridge out of a line. So the 1V8 line has to go from the power management chip, and it has to go out to the home button. It's got to go down to Tigris, and it has to have that 1.8 that has the ability to turn into 0, being shorted to ground by an action, like pressing the power button or plugging in the charger. And then that change from a 1 to a 0 goes to the CPU, and the CPU hears that, oh, somebody wants me to wake up. Okay, so let's see. Board needs a nap. Come on, boot, motherfucker. All right. Are you using ManyCam? I don't know what that means. You have Michael in your search box. What? What search box? Lewis is boozing and ranting. Go do something to him. No, he gets like super angry. No. He does that a lot. Makes sense and sounds like a good place to stop for the night. Fuck that. Boot this board. No sleep till boot. Damn. That's really funny. All right. So wait, what is yup it does, Jessa? I forgot what we were talking about. 1V8 is a step in the right direction. It is. We made progress. We've made 2 big pieces of progress. One is the primary problem, which is this phone had a short on 1V8 SD RAM line. And that means that 1v8 got damaged. It had, I think you should keep this pet going until Lewis runs out of booze. Oh, geez. No, I mean, like, Lewis and I were talking until 4:30 in the morning last night, so this is going to go on for a while. Michael Oberdick in the search field? What? What window? I had clicked his name. I made him a mod on my channel because I saw some comments that should probably be deleted. So let's see. Let's just kind of, all I want to do here, this is like total classic rabbit hole. She read my comment, yay! All I want to do is just see which side of that resistor is the PMIC side, and then what side is the other side, and then just see what happens if we kind of short it to ground. I need to brush off a little bit of flux though, because this is, otherwise you can't do anything. And then we'll stop, I promise, I swear. I promise. Caught trying to steal Sunday's man. Well, Sunday was incredibly and unusually 3 sheets to the wind last weekend. And she was challenging Lewis to some kind of running race. And I believe that Sunday has not run in 10 years at about this time of night last weekend. All right, so maybe we can kind of get a little reading on here. All right, let's look up on the schematic. Let's kind of get to a stopping point here. All right, down the rabbit hole, just one more thing. That's the definition of like why we call it rabbit holes. It's that the rabbit is always just one step ahead. It's not like it's way down there. It's like, well, if this may be the only thing wrong, and in fact, likely so. Like there's a good chance that the only thing wrong here is a 1v8 problem, which is kind of solvable. In which case, yay. I mean, we know that PMIC function, at least on that line, is good. I'm sure that this PMIC is down on everything now. Nothing is shorted. This is great. This is definite progress. So seems like, the rabbit just kind of jumps one step ahead. First it was just kind of clean everything up, and you have an SD RAM short, clear the SD RAM short. Okay, we cleared the short. Okay, now it needs a power management chip. I usually watch Rossman's stream, but Jess is more entertaining and knows her stuff and much easier on the eyes, in my opinion, which counts for lots. I'm afraid to click over and see what Lewis is looking like now. I'm not going to watch that stream for sure. He's full of good ideas and is insightful, but sometimes he gets in his rut of social justice hating, and that's just not fun. Especially because of this phone. Like, I just am done with hate. It's just too fatiguing. Let's see. Let's go. I see the future of Chris Long and Jessa with very successful businesses. I also see Lewis featured on True Hollywood Story from YouTube fame. Maybe so. All right, let's look and see let's go back to ZXW and kind of flush out this line a little bit. So this is where we got our 1v8, which comes from the PMIC. And then the other side of it is what probably goes to the power button. That's odd that it would come back here. I need to look that up. That would either be feedback or I'm reversed, that this is the originating one, that makes a lot more sense, because I was pretty sure I'd nudged that chip initially, but over here, the opposite corner, that's where it would not have been down. So it may have been that. The White Rabbit is heading to bed. Sounds smart. He's discussing why Southern Comfort is not a sponsor yet, Repair Shopper. And Michael Underdick. Lewis needs to be a little less NYC and a little more Jessa. Have you heard of a board heating itself over time, like the old PC boards? A board healing itself. Board healing itself. Well, heat changes resistance, so kind of. Speaking of mental disease, check out Lewis. No, I can't do that. Like I can't watch him destroy himself. No, I mean, I really had a chat with him last night about, I don't think it's a good idea for you to kind of publicly go after me and Jason with this, like, really aggressive stuff with this supply, because I think that's going to make you look really mean. And that's bad for your kind of everyman image. All right, I kind of want to put my eyeballs right on this little filter. That should be on the opposite side of the opposite side of this. All right, are you over here, bro? Are you fine? I think everybody over here looks okay. I'm not gonna mess with you. All right, he's fine. All right, let's go back. All right, let's see what kind of voltage we're getting out of the connector. The challenge board. Okay, so I think that I have really gotten to the end of where I would start making mistakes with this board, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to kind of see if there's any change and just stick it on here. I never did prompt to boot the other way with the power button, with the USB. So let's just make sure that we don't get any flicker that way, since it looks like we've healed our 1v8 problem a little bit at least. Hey, I do get a flicker, yay! Well, I wasn't expecting that. All right, so I prompted with USB and I saw movement. So let's test. And then we'll be done, I swear. Like, that is it. Like, it. I'm gonna be totally done. Because I'm getting tired. Because I had to like drink this much Diet Coke in order to even do this stream. All right, here we go. This is our last test. I'm gonna put a screen on it because I saw current. I saw prompt to boot happening. Now we're gonna be caught up to where we thought we were like an hour ago. This would be everything we've done, which we're not gonna list. And now we're gonna test, since we've solved the fact that we are getting an absolutely straight up flat zero. Okay, so I have connected it to DC power supply, and now I'm going to prompt to boot. And now we're going to look at these numbers. So prompt, and it's moving, and I see current consumption. I'm going to disconnect so that I can really read that. And it's saying 0.2, 0.3, 0.2, 0.67. I'm going to look for image. I see an Apple logo. Yay! It looks like it could be booting. So let me see if I can make it so that you guys can see that. So I see an Apple logo. And I'm going to reconnect it to, that looks like normal current consumption. It's going high. It's 1.3, 1.2, 1.5. That's a little too high. I'm going to connect it to hear if I can hear it. I heard it detect. Yay, this is serious progress. All right, let me see if iTunes detects it in normal mode. Yes, it detects it. So iTunes sees this phone. So this phone has booted. So now we need to work on touch. I have image. I see a passcode. All right, let's see if I can get this passcode. Do I have touch? I can't, I need to get a better screen. All right, that's a piece of shit screen. All right, so I'm gonna get a screen that I'm not questioning. Yay, see? Going down that rabbit hole, I'm gonna tear this shirt up. So that right now this phone boots, and it is, oh shit. I wanna show you that it connects to iTunes, but I can't let you see that name. That would be too, how could I hide that? Could I put a window on top of it? Yeah, so trust me, it says connect to iTunes. Do you want this computer to access blank phone, which is the guy's name? Awesome, yay. All right, let's see if we have touch. If we don't have touch, that's definitely gonna be solvable. So this I think we're gonna get a path to data. So this is really, really exciting and really horrible for the message of not going down rabbit holes. And all right, let me put a screen on it and let me get a light so that you guys can see this actually boot. And let me, I guess I'll leave it on this. Wow, that is pretty fucking awesome, I have to say. Now it's going to be really hard to give up and not, if touch doesn't work. All right, passcode. All right, I know the passcode. All right, let me get a light from my phone so that you can see. Yay! Yay! Solving all kinds of problems. All right, I'm going to just turn the flashlight app on here so that I can see if I can hold this up. All right, this screen is flickering. That screen might not have been any better. All right, see that? Yay! I wouldn't let it sit. I'd fix touch and get shit. I always have more issues after they sit. All right, this is the, let's see if it has touch. Please just fucking have touch. Come on, mofo. So did you hear the detect sound? So it detects it again. So I'll disconnect so you can hear that. Disconnect. That's iTunes recognizing it. Okay. Yes! Oh my God, it has touch. Yay! Yay, yay, yay. Oh, this is awesome. This is so great. This is really awesome. Really awesome. Trust. Yes. This is great. Oh, this is so great. I'm super happy. Yay. Yay! We solved it! Yay! All right, I'm gonna move it over to the data recovery computer. Yay! Path to data. So I was able to boot it. It was the correct passcode, and I was able to hit trust. So we have a path to data, and they'll be able to get those pictures back. And this was a really fulfilling repair. And being able to make that call is going to be really awesome to deliver them, the family, these memories, and at least for them to know like there's peace in knowing what were those last moments like, to see the text or the messages and whatever's on that phone. So I'm really happy to be able to get this result. And when we contact the family, if they're willing to share their identity, then we'll ask if we can kind of share a picture or so and kind of change that so that this video will have some more context. But so thank you guys for hanging in and giving up on one of Lewis's drunken rants. I know that's compelling. And I'm going to go take this over and actually recover the data so that tomorrow morning she will get that phone call, and that's going to be really great. Alrighty, so let me see if you guys have anything else to say. And thank you. I heard a couple of donations come in, and that's great. I will send those on. Fixing things for you, using your brain instead of rehot CPU, bro. So I will pass that on. And read your data recovery. Do it as soon as the unit boots. Yes. Well, you can't recover data off a DC power supply. because it doesn't have gas gauge information. So leaving it on DC power supply is actually bad. So we need to go to a battery and get the data right away. I was gone for 5 minutes. What happened? That sucks. that sucks. The hanging in with the stream for forever and then taking a leak. We solved it. It boots. So that's great. Yep, boot. What did she have to do last to get it in working condition? So we were stuck. We had, a shit ton of work, like tons and tons of stuff. But then ultimately we were stuck at why was it missing the 1v8 always line, which is the prompt to boot. So we were kind of suspicious because it was just a complete flat 0 on DC power supply, and that's really abnormal. You only get that with a connection problem. Then we found that there was like dock connector had cold joints, power button connector also had cold joints, solved that. And then we went and hunted down 1v8 line, 1v8 always, and we found that it was low. It was 1/3 of what it should have been. It was at 0.6. It should have been 1.8. And so then there were a couple possibilities, chatted about that. And one of those was that one ball that generates 1v8 out of the PMIC may have been that head on pillow effect, because I only nudged one side of the PMIC when I first seeded it. So we went back and re-hot PMIC, bro. And then I gave it nudge all the way down and made sure to see that click, which is taking a risk because that's a lot of heat. But we were lucky. We did not get a short on VCC main. We did not get a short on any of those CPU lines. And they did not look like they had too much heat. So we were confident about that. Went back and checked 1v8, and 1v8 was present. So that was a big win. And then after that, the power button still, I think, that just looks really shitty. And I think there's something in the path of that may be messed up, or the connector itself still may be bad because it was very corroded in that area. So the last thing I tried was, well, then now that we've brought back 1v8, will it now boot from DC USB prompt to boot? And I was, surprised actually. So I that was the last thing, God damn it, for real, the last thing that I'm going to do. So we did plugged it into USB, and it did start acting like it was going to boot. So grabbed a screen, and it did boot, and it had touch, which, I'm glad that we had replaced the Cumulus and Mason in advance, because that would suck to have to do that now. So iTunes detects it, and I was able to enter the passcode and hit trust, and I could see data. So we have a path to data, and we'll be able to give them good news. So that's what we did. Let me just check, and then I'm gonna get this going. Let's see. Rabbit hole. Yeah, then I'm going to go make some rabbit stew. All right. Get the data while it works. And I've heard a few donations that I missed the, backlight. No, not happening. Data recovery is grab while you can. That's right. She yanked the backlight driver is off. Yay. These are repairs that make you feel good. Yes, exactly. Everyone, go tell Lewis. All right. I just came here because Lewis was praying. Well, we fixed our phone. We're definitely not fixing another one. Yeah, he finishes an entire bottle of Southern Comfort like every other day. I mean, that's more than one, sometimes two. Let's see. Steve Miller, $2. Thank you for that. All right, rabbit has been trapped. And one time we did go out with a course, and he was drinking way too much, and I took the bottle and I just put it up high because he's short and he couldn't get it. All right, can't wait to send my tech to your school. Yes, we have trained 18-year-olds before. We had a 17-year-old was the youngest guy at the course once. Dump my phone in the toilet Sunday morning. Alcohol a good idea? Okay, sure. Honestly, just disconnect the battery and you'll be fine. Just disconnect the battery and you stop everything in its tracks. All right, I think I'm at the end of my chat. The last thing you try is usually the fix, exactly. All right, yep, disconnect the battery. Very good. Okay, so that gets to the end of chat, and I am out of here. So I will see you guys next time. And thank you for all of you guys that donated. I'm really excited to add that up and be able to let her know that the repair family globally thinks that killing somebody for no reason is disgusting, and that we don't want her to live the rest of her life feeling that the whole world, that can happen. That there's lots of people that would put a couple bucks into letting her know that she has a big global hug from the repair family. All right, see you next time.